Hi, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 215, and I'm Lisa, your host, also known as Fiber Nymph on Ravelry and Instagram. I never say where you can find things. I guess I assume that if you're watching the podcast, you already know where to find the podcast, but occasionally I do remember to say this. So it's on YouTube. I embed it in the episode thread on Ravelry in the 90% Knitting group, and I link it on the Facebook page as well, and that link takes you to the YouTube page. And lastly, it should be on iTunes every week as well because I upload to Podcast Garden, which feeds it to iTunes. So that's where you can find the podcast. So if where you're currently watching isn't working for you, maybe one of those other places will work better. I try to post show notes weekly in the episode thread on Ravelry. So just go to the 90% Knitting group and you should find it there. Okay, I think that's everything like that. Let's see, today is Wednesday, September 14th. And is it 14th? Yeah, it's 14th, I think. I didn't write it on my show notes. I wrote my show notes last night while I was up at the mountain house, and I don't have my files on my laptop up at the mountain house, so I was just winging it. And so I didn't write the date on my notes. But it is indeed Wednesday the 14th of September. We are almost to the middle of September already. I'm not sure how that's happened because this month seems to be flying by. Anyway, my coffee today is courtesy of this cute little place that's down at the other end of my township. It's called Sweet Buzz Bean and Bistro. I've known about it, but I've never been in there. And they've been there probably a couple of years now. My township is rather long, and for me to go down to the other end of the township, it's sort of an ordeal. So it's probably about 5 miles away, which doesn't sound like very far if you're from someplace where you have to travel 20 miles or something to get someplace. But for me, like, there's a whole lot of traffic on the road I need to get to. So if I don't have to go down to that end of the world, I don't. But I was coming home from, well, I was coming from the mountain house to my house this morning to work. And I thought, you know what? There's this one road. I can take this little back road that winds around to the other end of the township. And this little coffee shop is right there on the corner of that main road and the little back road. So I thought, I'm going to go there and I'm going to stop in and check it out because I've heard really good things about it. And lo and behold, it is very, very tasty. This is a caramel macchiato that is way better than Starbucks. It's actually lighter. I like the ones from Starbucks, but they tend to be heavy. This one was quite light and foamy and very tasty. And I also got a pumpkin muffin. Oh my gosh, this pumpkin muffin was fabulous. Fresh baked pumpkin. It had some sort of nuts in it and cranberries. I know everybody's into pumpkin season, but I look forward to fall because of cranberries. I love cranberries. And this is the time of year when cranberries start coming out in everything. Anyway, that was a little side note. Let's see, anything else housekeeping wise? Oh, I want to apologize for last week's episode. Not the episode itself per se, but for the choppiness of last week's episode. I don't usually do a lot of heavy editing to my episodes just because I don't have time to sit and watch them from the beginning to the end in order to do that. So I usually do the bare necessities just to clean it up and make it, watchable. But last week, oh my goodness, I had to stop and start and chop things out because I was all over the place. And I had, if you watched, you saw I kind of inserted a Lisa from the Future clip because I had totally said something very confusing and I needed to clarify that. Yeah, so anyway, last week's episode was very, very choppy due to some heavy editing on my part. Hopefully this week will go smoother and I will try not to ramble as much and, not need to do that kind of editing because I prefer not to if I can avoid it. And I think it's easier to watch to a podcast that doesn't have a lot of heavy editing because sometimes those chops can be very jarring. Anyway, Okay, here we go. Didn't have anybody new introduce themselves in the welcome thread, I don't believe, this past week. But hello, if you are new, thank you for checking out the podcast. And if you've been around for a while, thanks for coming back. And hopefully this week's episode will run smoothly. Okay, let's get into the knitting. It has been a very, very busy week. Not a whole lot of knitting to show you, at least not on stuff that you've seen before. Actually, that's not true either. Oh, goodness. Yeah, we're off to a great start, aren't we? Let me show you this project that I showed you last week. This is the ridged feather cowl that I started last week. I don't think I really put too much more in. I'm not actually even sure. I think I was in the middle of the second skein or near the end of the second skein when you saw it last. I am on the third skein now, so I guess I made a little bit of progress. I just haven't worked on it in recent days because I've been doing other things. But here it is. It's Noro Silk Garden in color number 284. And it's just the ridged feather pattern. And yeah, I'm just kind of going around and around and around. Many errors have been made in this. Even, it was funny because actually last week after I recorded and I had told you I hadn't made too many goofs, I knew I made a couple, but it was okay. I think probably on the very next round, I totally screwed something up and everything was out of whack. And I thought, I'm going to rip this. I'm just ripping this because once again, I've been bitten in the butt by Feather and Fan. But as it turned out, I was able to get it back on track, so I did not rip it. So it will continue, and hopefully I will get it finished. But that's all there is to show you on that. The Twilight socks. Let's see. Where are the Twilights? Oh, seriously? Do I not have them in here? Okay, here they are. I switched their bag. Remember last week I said I needed to start putting my projects in fall bags. So that's what I did. They are in this bag, which is by someone... I honestly don't remember, and I don't know if I still have the... Oh, there's a tag in it. Wait. It is Jenna Rose. She's from Canada. And I know she prints her own fabric. This is a linen fabric, and she does the printing. I can't remember. I think she might be on Etsy. I'm not sure. I'll try to remember to link it in the show notes. Anyway, I bought this bag last year, and I really, really like it a lot. So, anyway, okay, the Twilight socks. Did I make much progress? I really didn't, because I remember I stuck this progress marker in last week while I was recording, and that's all the further I got on that. So, oh well. I have not put a lot of time into this, mainly because I have another sock I'm very excited about that I am working on. But this project has actually stayed here at this house, and I don't tend to have a whole lot of knitting time here at this house right now. So that didn't get a lot of work. But that was Regia, Arnie, and Carlos, the Twilight colorway, which is 36.54. Not a lot of progress to show you. That was hardly even worth it, was it? Oh well. All right. I'm dropping things here. Hang on. A sock that I did put a decent dent in, actually. And, well, I guess I didn't. Oh my gosh. What am I talking about? Wow. I'm all kerfluffled here. This you haven't seen in a while, actually. You saw the first one, which is the first fall sock. This is Highland Handmaids Yarns Sugar Maple Sock in her first fall colorway, which was the colorway we got in our goodie bags last year at Highlands on the Fly. I had finished this first one a while ago, and I immediately cast on the cuff of the second one. I had like maybe 2 or 3 rounds, so I did add about an inch to it. Again, really minimal. But I'm trying to think, was this one here or this? This one may have also been here at this house as opposed to up at the mountain house. So that is part of the reason why it hasn't been getting worked on. Anyway, I pulled it out. I was going to a movie this week, which I'll talk about later, and this is not a good movie knitting sock because I'm doing that staggered rib where I switch up the rib every 8 rows. So I have to be able to see what I'm doing and count rounds, and it's just not good for me to take that away and try to do that in the dark. So That didn't get a whole lot of work, but it got a little bit of work. So, and that is also in the little project bag that Paul, Heather's husband, made, and that we got at Highlands on the Fly last week or last year as well. So, another fallish bag. Okay, let's see what else. I have 2 new projects, and actually, those are the 2 projects that I probably did the most work on. So, I will show those to you. The first one is one that I cast on up at the Mountain House this week. Probably, I think Monday. Was it Monday? Maybe it was Friday. I don't remember. It was one of the days that I was working up there. And I was just in the mood to do a hat, and I was in the mood to knit with handspun. So I pulled this handspun out. This is what's left of it right now. This is some Briar Rose Fibers BFL that I spun. I don't remember when I spun it. Wow, the whole ball is just sort of falling apart on me right now. Anyway, it's not a very consistently spun yarn at all. There's some big lumpy parts and there's some finer parts, but overall it's definitely a heavier weight yarn than I usually spin. I would say it's probably close to an Aran, if not a little heavier than an Aran. But it's working out well for this hot hat, which is going to be a very densely knit hat. I'm in the decrease rounds now. This is just sort of a plain vanilla hat. I cast on, I think, 80 stitches and did 2x2 rib. I'm actually kind of concerned that it might be too large. I started on US 7s. Let's see if I can put it on. This is always fun, putting a hat on while it's still on the needles. So, oh no, it's actually pretty, it fits okay here. But I wanted it to be slouchy, so I cast on 80, and then after I did, I don't know, probably a little less than 2 inches of ribbing, I just did a round with random increases. I think I increased up to maybe like 96 stitches. I didn't aim to increase to a certain amount. I just did it. And actually, this is what I took to the movie with me. So I went from the ribbing into the stockinette part during the movie, including doing the random increase round. And at one point early in the movie knitting, I got off pattern in the ribbing, and so you can see, if I can get it to show up here. Where are you? Here. Okay, let's see. I don't know. Can you see, like, right? You can see it in the knit area because there's like a half a round where I knit the pearls and purled the knits instead of, you know, like I just got off. I knew I did it because when I got to my stitch marker, I ended on 2 knit stitches, and I knew it should have been 2 purl stitches. So I knew I had screwed up, but it was not something that I could go back in during the movie and figure out. So I just slipped the marker and started off in the correct patterning, and it was fine the rest of the way. But I do have that one partial round that is not correct, and you know what? I don't care. I don't care because, number one, this is a very rusticy looking hat to begin with, just because of the irregular spin of the yarn. And number two, I just don't care. It's a hat. I'm planning to take this with me on our canoe trip up to Canada next week. I just wanted a nice new warm hat because it's going to be cold at night, like night and in the morning. So I'm going to need a hat to sleep in. And I thought this will be a good one. And I like slouchy hats, so that's why I did the increases. So anyway, Canada is not going to care if I've screwed up half of a round. So I'm in the decreases. I don't know if I'm going to have enough yarn to finish the decreases, but I actually have a tiny little second skein of this that I think was probably what was left on a bobbin, and I probably just 3-plied it. So if I need to, I can use that to finish up the crown of the hat. Again, I don't really care. It'll just be a nice, warm, functional hat, and I love the color. Color's fabulous. That's pretty true to color too. It's just this really deep, yummy red, an orangey red. But anyway, okay, so this did get a lot of love, and I'm like I said, I knitted on 7s, and then whenever or I cast it on 7s, did the ribbing on 7s, then I went up to 9s. These needles that I'm using, let me show these to you. I don't remember. I just dropped that whole ball of yarn. I don't remember what brand these are. This is what they look like. They've got that little crook in the metal tip part that is similar to what ChiaoGoo does, but they're not ChiaoGoo. They're metal, and they're this gray coated metal. They've got a clear plastic cable, which isn't the flexiest cable in the world, but it's okay. The join is great. Like, there's no snagging on the join. I just don't remember what brand they are. I've had them forever. I bought them when I worked at the LYS. I'll have to ask Bonnie. She's coming today. Maybe she'll remember what they are. I always liked these needles, and I think this might be, I may have one other pair of these. I hardly ever use them because I don't knit hats on 9s very often. And since this is a 16-inch needle, that would be really probably the only thing I would be knitting on it, unless I guess I was doing a sweater sleeve maybe. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I really actually kind of like them. They're a shorter needle tip. You can see they're not like super long. They're maybe about 4 inches. And with that little crook, it's actually just big enough to do a hat, to do like the circumference of a hat. So anyway, that's coming along. Oh my gosh. That little ball of yarn went the whole way back to underneath my desk. Okay, hang on. I'll be right back. Okay, here we are. So anyway, that is the hat. The hat is not in a fall bag, mainly because it's going to be done pretty soon. It says, if you could spend an hour with anyone living or dead, what would you knit? And I have to be honest, I don't remember where I got this bag. I think someone gave this to me when I ran into them like at a retreat or something. That's my thought. And I don't want to name a name because in case that wasn't the person, I don't want to say anything. But I love the bag. It's really cute. I don't know where I got it though. Okay, so that's the hat. Last project that I cast on, and I also spent a good bit of time working on it, and the bag is covered in cat hair because it has been up at the mountain house. Everything is covered in cat hair at the mountain house, unless I'm in one of the cat-free zones, which is where I typically try to keep my yarn stuff, but apparently somebody rubbed up against this. Anyway, I cast on a new sock because I have a new colorway that I'm going to have in the shop this week, and it's one that includes variegated stripes, which is very hard for me to do a computer-generated graphic representation of variegated stripes. Usually, if you've ever looked at my shop pages, you know, when I have self-striping, I put together, you know, these computer-generated mock-ups of what the striping pattern is going to look like so you have an idea of what you're getting. Because I cannot possibly knit samples of every single colorway I have. So that's the next best thing. But whenever it comes to variegated stripes or even speckled stripes, sometimes it's really hard to do an accurate representation. So I like to try to knit samples up of those. Speckles aren't as bad. Those I can kind of do. Variegates are very, very difficult. So anyway, this is the sock. Now, it looks very different because it looks like there's way more stripes in it than there actually are. This is a 5 striping colorway, and it's the next colorway in my Pie series of yarns. So we had Pie Day, which was the original, and we had the second helping of Pie, which was the second one, and then the darker side of Pie, which was the third one. I hadn't brought any more out recently, but I decided I wanted to. And the other thing about this is my Halloween 2016 colorway. So it is a Pie Day colorway. And it's called Hallow Pie, HALLO-PI with an E in parentheses. So the striping pattern itself follows the numeric sequence of pi. So size-wise, it's relative. So the first stripe is the 3, then the next stripe is the 1, then the next stripe is the 4, the next stripe is a 1, the next stripe is a 5, and so on and so on and so on as the digits go through pi. So that's how my Pie Day yarns work. What's interesting about this one, though, is because the colors are variegated, and I've got a black and gray here. I'll show you up here because it's a little easier since down here is small. There's the black and gray variegated stripe, and then there's an orange, a purple, a yellow, and a green, which is the next one that I'm knitting up here, green. The black and the gray, that's obvious, the colors. But the other 4 colors, there's a bright version of the color, and then there's a darker, more shadowy version of the color. And so as you knit it up, especially in the larger strips, you can really see it in the green and in this black and gray one. You can kind of see it in the purple and this yellow one. They tend to do this almost sub-striping or sort of a spiraling thing where you get the picture of the dark and the light going on in there. I think it's so cool because that isn't something that I can actually plan. That just sort of happens, and I can't guarantee that it's going to happen the exact same way in every skein, but I just love how this colorway is turning out. So anyway, that's why I cast this on. This is in my Squish 2.0 base, which is the Corriedale Nylon Blend. And it's US ones. I'm using these, are these Carbons? I'm so bad with remembering what needles are. I think these are the Carbons needles that I really was not very crazy about knitting on. I'm not crazy about these for sock size needles, mainly because they're so thin and they feel like they're gonna snap. I've actually not been noticing that as much. I don't know if maybe I'm just not gripping them as tightly. So I have actually not minded knitting on them with this sock. And the only reason I'm using them is because I've got all my other sock needles on socks somewhere. The thing I don't like about these needles is the join. It grabs. Every time I have to go through there, I can feel it catching, and so I really have to work the yarn over the join to get it where it needs to be. That's my biggest gripe about these needles. I've never used these needles in a larger size, so I don't know if that's the same issue. At least I don't think I have. I don't know that I have a larger size of these. I may be lying. Maybe I did have a larger size and I gave them away. I don't remember. But these are not my favorite sock needles at all, but they're working just fine for this sock. So anyway, I know that was sort of a little bit of shop info, but since it's a new project and I'm knitting on it, I figured I'd talk about it now too. So anyway, so that's my Hallow Pie sock, plain vanilla sock pattern. I did do my ribbing much bigger than I usually do. That's probably about twice as big as my ribbing is, but I wanted to do the whole first pie sequence in this ribbing. Now, whenever I get to the second sock, since pie does not repeat and there's no repetition within this skein, the second sock will start at a different point, and I'll just have to measure and do the ribbing the same size. It won't encompass the same digits, obviously, but it'll be fine. Anyway, so that is my Halloween sock project for the time being. And it is housed in a Halloween bag. This is a Tangerine Designs bag that I got a few years ago. I love it. The mummies, they're so cute. So anyway, that is all my knitting projects that I have worked on this week. No notable progress was made on the Antler Cardi. I don't know. I'm just, it's all that's stuck in it. It's just, it hasn't been at the top of my priority list. It's also like, it's cool in the mornings, but it's hot during the day. So I guess maybe my sweater, sorry, I'm adjusting because I feel lopsided all of a sudden. My sweater mojo has sort of waned here a little bit. Anyway, so I haven't really made any progress on that. No progress at all on the Retina Searing Pixel socks with the Pixel Rise pattern by Kemper Ray. I'll get back to it though. I just haven't had time. And I still have not gotten the heels in that other pair of Arnie and Carlos socks, the Fall Nights socks that are going to be for Bill. I'll get to those too. I just, we've got that Work Your Whips Cal coming up soon for the rest of the year. So that'll be a great time to work on all these whips. So let's talk about that. The Work Your Whips Cal, which will be for, I forget what I said last week. And I still haven't written out all of the guidelines for this knit along, but it'll be for knitting, crocheting, weaving, spinning, any of those fiber arts. I think I said I was just going to keep it to fiber arts that are supported by Ravelry. So we're going to say knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, I think that's it. Is that the 4 that I said? I'm pretty sure that's the 4 that I said. Any WIPs, they have to be WIPs. They have to be works in progress by October 1st in order to count as a project for the Work Your WIPs CAL. And I am just calling it a CAL, even though I know K stands for knit along. It's just so much easier to call it a CAL. Everybody understands what it is then. Anyway, yes, it has to be started prior to October 1st to count as a WIP. Hang on. There may be some additional leeway on that as we go along. I'll have to get back to you on that next week. I will have the thread up for that next week and all of the guidelines by the time I record next week, just because the knit along will actually start before I get back from my trip to Canada. So I want to have everything up and ready for that, because I am not going to be able to access anything at all. Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm looking at my calendar. We're going to get back into civilization, I guess, October 1st. But I have no idea if I'll be able to access anything at that point. So it may be the 2nd before I'm able to like get a finished object thread up or anything like that. We'll see. Anyway, full details coming by next week, I promise. But anyway, I'm looking forward to that because it'll be a great way, like I said last week, you've got time between now and October 1st. If you've got projects that you know you want to get done before the end of the year or before the holidays, now is a perfect time to start them and have them on deck to start working through the Work Your WIPs CAL that will happen for the rest of the year. And that was what I said last week, that I just had to chime in with an additional little video clip. So that was my Lisa of the Future clip, because I had just said, right before I talked about that CAL, I just said, we're not going to do any more multi-month CALs. We're not doing a multi-month CAL this year. And I had been referring to the ones that I had done, like the head to toe CAL and the alphabet CAL that had lasted like 4 months each, and they built on each other. That was what I was referring to by a multi-month CAL. But right on the heels of that, I said, but we're going to do this Work Your WIPs CAL for the rest of the year. Well, the rest of the year is 3 months, so that is multiple months. So I just, you know, the fact that I completely contradicted myself within minutes like that just was more than I could bear, and that's why I had to put that little addition in to the podcast last week. So anyway, but the kit craft along is still going on, and tomorrow is your last day. So that has been going on for the last month and a half. It's wrapping up tomorrow. You have one more day to finish up any kit projects that you've been working on for that and post your finished object pictures in the finished object thread by tomorrow at midnight your time. And I will close that thread, I guess Friday, probably early Friday. And I will announce the winners next week on next week's podcast. That's the other thing, however, that I totally screwed up last week when I was talking about the prizes. And I'm so thankful that one of you wrote to me on Ravelry and said, did you change your mind about the prizes? Because I just my brain just wasn't there. If you remember when I first announced the Craft Your Kit Craft Along, I said the grand prize, the points-oriented prize, whoever has the most points is going to get a $50 gift certificate to my shop. I totally didn't announce that at all last week. It totally went out of my brain because I was so focused on wanting to tell you about the other prizes that I didn't completely forget about it, but it wasn't on my radar. So I didn't announce it, but I want to go back and I just want to clarify. What I said last week was not correct. The points prize for the most points will be the $50 gift certificate to my shop. That has not changed. I'm not going back on that. Last week I said that the Frog Peak Creations bag and the skein of my yarn that I was putting together, that was going to be the points grand prize. It's not. It's going to be one of the participation prizes. And then the other one is going to be the Rainbow Riot mini set. Those two items will be participation drawing prizes. So I will draw those winners from the chatter thread, the participation thread, and the grand prize based on points will come from the finished object thread. Actually, maybe I will do the bag and yarn prize from participation based on the finished objects thread. And then the minis I will draw from the chatter thread. I think that's how I'll do it. And I may do one more prize, like a pattern prize giveaway from any additional Instagram posts that are tagged with the 90K 90K craft. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Why can I not remember that tag? I don't know why I can't remember that tag. And I didn't write it in the notes again. 90K kit along. That's not that hard, but 90K kit along. If you've tagged projects for the kit along on Instagram with that tag, I'll probably do one more drawing for a pattern prize. The person who won, I had 2 winners last week that I did prizes for. One I've heard from. The one who was the Instagram one, I have not heard from you yet. So I'm still waiting to hear back on that. Okay. Sorry, I need to get my notes back up because I'm not doing so great with the notes. If I don't have the notes, my gosh, where will this go? Okay. I think that's everything I need to tell you about the craft along. Again, it's over tomorrow. Thank you to everybody who's participated. There's been a lot of chatter, and that's been wonderful. I've tried to keep up with it, even if I'm not being the one commenting on a lot of stuff. But that's been really fun. Oh, my dog's having a fit because people are walking up on the road. Anyway, okay. I think that is everything for 90%. Let's talk about 10%. 10%, actually the biggest 10%-y thing going on right now is just planning for this canoe trip. Oh my goodness. I have been posting pictures on Instagram related to that. The other night, Bill has this giant box, like a big box, full of freeze-dried meals that are meant for like camping and backpacking. They're not MREs, but they are just dried, they're meals that you pour water in and suddenly you've got beef stroganoff or you've got vegetable lasagna. I don't know. I'm a little skeptical about how palatable these are going to be. He claims they're not too bad. I mean, he's not trying to pass them off as gourmet cuisine or anything, but he's like, you know, we're going to be out there. You're going to be hungry. It's like basically you'll be happy to eat anything that's not tree bark or something. So he put all these packages out on the table. And he says, okay, here, I want you to pick what foods you want to take. And it's so sweet, really, because, you know, he could just be organizing this. Like I've said, he's the one who has done all these major canoe trips in the past. I haven't, but he wants me to have a part in planning this. And so he's giving me all these little jobs to do to help plan it, which I think is really sweet. So I got to pick out all of our meals. So we'll see how that goes. What else? Oh, he bought this shower thing. I posted a picture of it on Instagram. It's a camp shower, but it's different than any camp shower that I've ever seen before. It's actually, you put the water in it, and you can put like scalding hot water in it. You know, it's a plastic, but it's rugged, you know. And then it's got a foot pump that you pump up to pressurize it, and then it's got, like, think the squirty hose thing that's on your kitchen sink. It's got that kind of a hose. And so basically you pump it with your foot and then you just squirt yourself with this squirty thing and you can take a shower. So we had it out the other day and it's brand new, so we wanted to test it. And so he had it down in the basement and we filled it with water and just tested it in the sink and everything. And it seemed to work fine. The reviews for it are really pretty good. So then we were going to empty the water out and I'm like, well, you know what? Just leave the water that's in it in there. It was about half full at that point. I said, when I wash my hair tomorrow, I'll come down and I'll try it out. Cause that was my biggest thing. I'm like, I want to be able to wash my hair while we're away. Cause that's gross. I hate not having my hair washed. I said, so I'll see how well it does to like rinse shampoo out of my hair. He's like, okay, you know, so I was just planning to put like hot tap water in it to fill it up and test it out. So the next morning I got up and I decided, you know what, I'm going to just full on test this thing. Now I have to give you the disclaimer that The backyard at the mountain house is very secluded. Like, you can't see the neighbors. Like, they're on the other side of trees and bushes and everything, but you cannot directly see through there. So I went out in the backyard and I got naked and I took a shower. I know, too much information. I'm sorry. But it was actually kind of cracking me up because number one, it was super early. It was like maybe 6:30, 7 in the morning. So it was still pretty chilly. It was in the low 50s. And I thought, well, this is what it's going to be like while we're away, if not colder. So I might as well see how this is all going to work out. So I took my shower, and you know what? That camp shower worked awesome. It was wonderful. You didn't have to pump it up constantly. The pressure stayed in it pretty well. I had no problem washing and rinsing my hair. I was able to get completely clean, and I hadn't even used like half of the reservoir of water yet. And I mean, I stood there for quite a while and rinsed off like way more than I even needed to. And it was still over half full. So I think that's a win. Because I mean, it's not that big. It's like maybe, I don't even think it's like 2 feet high. It's probably like 18 inches high and maybe this big around. So I can't remember how many gallons it holds. I don't know. But anyway, it worked out really well. My test run of it was perfect. I told him, I said, I think tomorrow morning when you get up for work, you should go outside and test it. He's like, yeah, I'll pass. So he took a regular shower inside. But anyway, you know what was totally cracking me up too? And again, this might be too much information, but later that day, like in the evening before dinner, we had some work to do outside, and he was working on something on the canoe. And I said, well, you know what? The grass needs mowed. I'll just go mow the grass while you're doing that, and then I'll go in and make dinner. So I'm outside mowing the grass. I've never mowed the grass up at the mountain house before. His tractor is very different than mine. I like my tractor better, but whatever. So anyway, that has nothing to do with what I'm about to say. So I'm mowing and everything, and there's all these pine trees on the one side of the property. And they're not so close together that they don't need to be mowed. There is grass between them in certain spots. So I was trying to get in between these pine trees to mow the grass that was back in there. Well, I went in this one area, and I don't know what the weed was that was growing there. But as soon as I drove in, they were tall kind of weeds off to the side. As soon as I drove in there, all of these tiny, prickly, little tiny balls of seeds fell off these weeds, and I was wearing a tank top because it was quite warm, fell off the tree and just totally went down my shirt. I mean, like, it didn't even come on the outside of me. Seriously, it was almost like they dove inside my shirt, went down in my bra. It was the most uncomfortable thing in the world because it was just kind of like little tiny balls of porcupines prickling me. They were super, super small, like a grain of quinoa. If you know how big that is, that's how small these things were, but they were pokey like all get out. And I'm freaking out because I'm thinking this is the last thing I need is to break out in some sort of crazy weed-induced rash on my boobs, okay? So I back out of that area and I zip up to the back porch where he's working, underneath the back porch actually. He's working on the canoe, and I get up there and I park and I whip my shirt off. I took my shirt off, I took my bra. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I just got into, but it's everywhere. And he's just looking at me like, are you okay? And I'm like, this is the second time today that I have been topless in this back porch. I don't make a habit of going outside without my clothes on at home, generally speaking. Not that I have anything against it. Hey, you know, nudity is awesome. But anyway, it was just really, really funny. So basically I got out, and the nice thing was those prickly things fell right out of everything as soon as I got the clothes off. I did end up just putting the shirt back on inside out just to finish mowing because I was almost done. But oh my gosh, it was so funny. And I don't think I suffered any major issues after that. Just, I can still feel it. They hurt. They really hurt. And that's not an area where you want pokey things. Okay, so that totally went off topic. Planning for the canoe trip. Yeah, and actually it's funny because he started carrying up like all of the camping equipment they were going to be taking with us, and it's all in the office right now. So like you open our office door at the house and it looks like a camping supply store threw up because it's just everywhere. And so we need to get organized. And next week's going to be super busy because he has to do a lot of traveling for work next week and won't be home till super late, like 3 different nights. So we really have to get this taken care of soon. Anyway, it's going to be fine. But okay, what else? 10%. Chris and I went to a movie. That's where I was knitting on the hat. We went to see Suicide Squad. He and I have not been out to see a movie together in a while. It was just him and I, so it was really nice. And Suicide Squad was good. I don't really follow those kind of movies. Like, I'm not a big comic booky kind of person. And I didn't really know much about any of these characters except for the Joker and Harley Quinn. I've heard of them. I mean, I know who the Joker is. I'd heard of Harley Quinn. But the rest of them, I had no idea. But I really liked it. And I love Will Smith. He played Deadshot, I guess. And his character was great. And I just love him as an actor. I appreciate him so much, and he was very funny in this movie. So it was a very good movie. I will say we saw one of the previews we saw was for Sausage Party, which I have to say I didn't know much about. I remembered after the trailer started that I had read or heard a review about this movie a while back, but I didn't remember a whole lot of it. I just remember the review saying this is kind of a really weird, warped movie. So as this is starting, if you don't know what it's about, it's basically, think Toy Story except with toys. It's with foods from the grocery store that like are, you know, come to life, basically. You know what I mean? They're animated. And so, and their big thing is they want to leave the grocery store and go home because they just want to live. But the whole thing is they don't realize the only reason they leave the grocery store is to get eaten. And so I'm watching this and I'm totally thinking, where is this going? And then they get home and the scenes in this trailer, I was sitting there like this. This is the look I had on my face. I'm like, and Christopher was cracking up looking at me because I had no idea this stuff was coming. Like the woman starts peeling the potato and he's like, I'm free, I'm one of the first chosen, and he's like, she's peeling my skin off. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then she picks up these 2 baby carrots, you know, the little tiny carrots, and they're like, ah, and she pops them in her mouth, and one of the hot dogs is like, she's eating children. I'm like, oh my gosh. I said this would traumatize children who watch this movie. They would never want to eat anything ever again. And Chris is like, the movie's rated R. I'm like, oh, so it's not a kid's movie. I think it's rated R anyway. It should be. Holy cow. And then I guess there's apparently like some really racy scene between the hot dog and the hot dog bun. I didn't see that, but whatever. Movies sometimes can be very strange. But oh my gosh, that trailer. There's very few times that a trailer really catches my attention, but that one was like, it was like a train wreck. I couldn't look away. Anyway, books. I actually listened to a new book this week. It's been a while since I have listened to a new book, and it was called The Dirty Life by Kristen Kimball, and I will read you the summary. Single, 30-something, and working as a writer in New York City, Kristen Kimball was living life as an adventure, but she was beginning to feel a sense of longing for a family and for home. This is a memoir, by the way. When she interviewed a dynamic young farmer, her world changed. Kristen knew nothing about growing vegetables, let alone raising pigs and cattle and driving horses. But on an impulse, smitten, if not yet in love, she shed her city self and moved to 500 acres near Lake Champlain to start a new farm with him. The Dirty Life is the captivating chronicle of their first year on Essex Farm, from the cold North Country winter through the following harvest season, complete with their wedding in the loft of the barn. Kimball and her husband had a plan to grow everything needed to feed a community. It was an ambitious idea, a bit romantic, and it worked. Every Friday evening, all year round, 100 people traveled to Essex Farm to pick up their weekly share of the whole diet: beef, pork, chicken, milk, eggs, maple syrup, grains, flours, dried beans, herbs, fruit, and 40 different vegetables produced by the farm. The work is done by draft horses instead of tractors, and the fertility comes from compost. Kimball's vivid descriptions of landscape, food, and cooking, and marriage are irresistible. As much as you transform the land by farming, she writes, farming transforms you. In her old life, Kimball would stay out until 4 a.m., wear heels, and carry a handbag. Now she wakes up at 4, wears Carhartts, and carries a pocket knife. At Essex Farm, she discovers the wrenching pleasures of physical work, learns that good food is at the center of a good life, falls deeply in love, and finally finds the engagement and commitment she craved in the form of a man, a small town, and a beautiful piece of land. That is a very good summary. That's basically what it was about. And like all of the tales that she tells about as they're going into this farming endeavor are just really well written. They're funny. I had like giggle out loud moments the whole time I'm listening to this. And then there was also like the new relationship aspect to it, you know, the whole engagement and the marriage and stuff like that. And so like I could kind of relate to that, having just gotten married and, you know, marrying somebody who is really, really into things that you like but aren't as into. Like I could relate to that too. So it was a very, very good book. I enjoyed it a lot. I would say if you've ever read Hit by a Farm, which is a book that was going around the knitting community for a while, and I'm sorry I cannot remember who the author of that is. She and her partner decided to buy a farm and they're in Minnesota somewhere. Hit by a Farm. What's another one? 50 Acres and a Poodle by Jean Marie Laskus. That's a fairly older book, but it's very similar. Basically, people who have not really farmed, deciding they want the country life and buy a farm, and the tales. Those kind of books I love. I just love those books. Now, obviously, her husband actually, he was very engrossed in farming. Like he had engaged in farming. He had farmed a lot in his life. So it wasn't new to him, but it was new to her. So same thing. Anyway, I really enjoyed it. And today I actually just started Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Somebody else on a podcast just recently mentioned that. It may have been Katie from Inside Number 23. I don't remember. It's been on my Audible wish list for a while, and I was looking for another book, and I really, really like memoir-y kind of things and nonfiction stuff, so that's where I'm at right now. So I downloaded that and I started listening to that this morning, but I'm not very far into it. I've not listened to a book on or read a book on creativity in a long time. I used to read them all the time back when I was freelancing and doing a lot of writing. I haven't done that so much recently though, so it kind of is nice to have that kind of a book to listen to again. So we'll see. I'll let you know how I like that once I finish that one up. And the only other 10% thing going on right now, because, you know, like all of this that's happening isn't enough, is Bill and I are going to the motorcycle safety course this weekend. It actually starts tonight. It's tonight, tomorrow night, and then Saturday and Sunday mornings. Saturday and Sunday mornings are the actual like road stuff. Like tonight and tomorrow night are the classroom stuff. So it's a safety course put out by the state of Pennsylvania. I think every state has them, maybe. I'm not entirely sure of that. But it's supposed to be a really, really good class for people who are new. They rarely encourage you to take them. Learn a lot about, you know, motorcycle safety. And Bill, obviously, he's been riding motorcycles for decades, but he decided to take it with me just so that he would know what I was learning and he could, you know, expound upon it to me or something. I don't know. So we'll be doing that. Let's see. The only other thing left is shop news, and I am going to pause here because I need to go grab a couple things, but I will be right back. If you're not sticking around for shop news, thanks for watching, and I will see you next week. I will record one more time before I go away onto my great Canadian adventure. But anyway, I'll be right back. Hang on. Okay, I'm back. Shop news. First of all, I just wanted to remind you about the announcement I made last week that Fiber Nymph Dye Works is a pro shop sponsor for the Pigskin Party that is now underway in the Down Cellar Studio podcast group. And that is throughout pro football season. So you might want to check out that group and see what that's all about. There are lots and lots of very cool sponsors for that. And a lot of us are offering coupon codes and things throughout the season. So you might want to check that thread out too. Just letting you know. Okay, shop update. The shop update this week will be Friday, which is the 16th of September, and it will be at noon Eastern. This is not going to be a particularly large update, but it will have several key items in it of what there is going to be, including some new colorways. So first of all, let me share with you that there will be, okay, I showed you this last week. This is Beach Wedding, which is my colorway that was inspired by my beach wedding. This is one of the skeins that I dyed up on Sport last week. I have it going in the shop this week. It will be on Bounce and Bedazzled. There will be a couple skeins each of that because I know people are waiting for it on regular fingering weight yarn. I will probably also put up some special order spots so that if it sells out in those, you can special order it, which that takes 4 to 6 weeks, but you'll at least get it. So that will be in the shop. I also had a special order for Inversibles in Aqua Shock and Fuchsia. And so I have extras of those. And if this is your order, it's going in the mail today, just so you know. I always feel funny about showing it as something going in the shop whenever the person who actually ordered it hasn't gotten it yet, but it's going in the shop to that person today, and the remaining 3 sets will be in the update. So there will be 3 of those, which are a fun, bright set. Okay. The other things that are going in the shop are Halloween oriented. I'm trying to start get my Halloween and fall kind of colorways out there. The first one I already showed earlier in the podcast. This is my Halloween 2016 colorway. It's one of the Pie Day. It's one of the Pie Day collection colorways, the newest one. So I'm calling it Hallow Pie. It's 5 stripes. As I said, they go according to the, let me find the right bag so that I can show you where to go. Here it is. They stripe according to the digits in pi. So all of the stripe widths are relative to those numbers. So here is a sample. All 5 colors in this colorway are variegated colors. So there's a lighter, brighter color, and then it's variegated with a darker, more shadowy color, which gives you this illusion of kind of a stripe within a stripe or a swirl within the stripe. It's just a really cool effect. I can't predict how it's going to turn out in every single skein because it'll be a little bit different, but I love how it turned out. So these are going to be 5 Halloween-y colorway, Halloween flavored pie stripes. I'm kind of deviating from actual pie because you can only do so many pie flavors, legit pie flavors. So these may be a little bit more fantastical pie flavors for each of these stripes, but I think that's part of the fun. And it gives me the ability to create endless iterations of Pie Day striping yarns. So anyway, as it is, there will be 3 skeins of it up in the Squish 2.0 base, which is the Corriedale nylon blend. Then I should have 2 sets of it, or 2 skeins in Bounce and 2 skeins in Bedazzled. I will also put up a few special order spots for this as well, which I'm going to try to get out by mid-October, just because I know if you want it for Halloween, you want it before Halloween. So I'm going to do my best to do that. So those will be up in the shop this week. Okay, I decided to do an autumnal themed set of Inversibles as well. I don't usually name my Inversible sets, but I'm just calling these Autumn Inversibles. So here they are, and I really like how these turned out. This has sort of a dark pumpkin-y orange stripe, and then the other stripe will be the speckled stripe, and it's speckled in, okay, if I can get it to focus, all kinds of fun autumny colors. So there's green and orange and deep red and golden yellow, all those speckles on just a neutral undyed base. So I think it's a really nice combination. I can't wait to see what they knit up. So somebody buy them, please, and knit them right away so I can see. Oh my gosh. But I love these colors. I realize orange is not everybody's color, but if you're into autumn and you like pumpkin-y things, I think you'll probably like this colorway. So these are the Autumn Inversibles. And I have 4 sets of those. If they sell out, I will do up another set, another batch of them for a future update. In addition to these, I've got a lot of stuff that's not reskeined. That's why I can't show it to you. It's dyed but not reskeined. In addition to this, I know I have 2 skeins of my Halloween colorway Got Candy, which is a 4-striper, and I will try to put a picture of that in right here. Hopefully you just saw a picture of it. I think I have a picture of it from past years, so you can at least see it. And I think that is on, I don't remember which base it's on. It's either on Bounce or on Bounce, Bedazzled, or Squish, because that's what I was working with this week. Sorry. It'll be in the listing, but there will be those. I'm not sure. See, I'm not going to have another update before I go away. And when I come back, I'm not sure how soon after I get back I'll be able to do my next update. If it's early enough in the month of October, I may put up one more update with some Halloween colorways in it. Otherwise, I'll just kind of try to stick to fallish colorways and start working on my holiday colorways soon. Yeah, I'll do the best I can. But anyway, that's mostly what I've got going up. I do have one other set that may be up in the shop. It's a one-of-a-kind thing. It was a special order that I did for someone, a 7-stripe special order. I dyed it, and the first set of it that I did, the 1 stripe ended up with these stray red dots in it that should not have, like, flecks. I don't know how it happened. It happens every once in a while, but of course it happened on a 7-stripe special order scheme. So I can't send this to the person who ordered it. I had to redo it. So I've redone it for that knitter. But the 2 that I did that kind of have the weird spots in it, those I'll put up in the shop just as a special, as a, a one-of-a-kind kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, they'll be discounted a little bit. So if you see those up there, then you'll know what they are. I think that's everything I have for this week's shop update. I was going to try to do a few other things, but I've just run out of time, and I'm trying really hard. I have 2 big wholesale orders that I need to get out before I go away next week. So that's really, really what I've been pushing to get finished. So anyway, but that's this week's shop update. Again, that'll be on Friday the 16th at noon Eastern. So anyway, I hope there's something there that you liked. Sometimes I like doing the smaller updates because I can concentrate more on a few colorways rather than trying to do a whole bunch of colorways and just have a couple skeins each. So hopefully this will work out. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope this week will end up being a little bit of an easier video to watch. I know I have a couple cuts in here, but hopefully it wasn't quite as choppy as last week. And I'm going to let you go. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will talk to you next week. Take care.